Did you get done on that stain?
Not yet. That other stuff,
That all looks new.
though. Pick your feet up, lady. Damn.
Talking loud.
I have no fucking clue. When people up buy them cars. No, they're getting closer. Oh, I see who it is.
And she's on a phone. She just walked around the edges.
I rejected AIDS a long time ago. No, I won't date somebody who has the disease. Why would I want to catch one? Shit, dick. Bitch, I don't even know who that fucking is. There's no such thing as a memory of something I didn't do.
Oh my god.
It's not gonna make it better. Not for me.
Hey, can you come back and finish that conversation? Y'all can't just walk by and not fucking let us finish hearing it. She's all talking about rejecting AIDS. Is AIDS making a comeback? Are you sure that bitch was not talking on the phone? It's just not talking to herself out loud?
Now she gets one of those little earphones.
Oh, cause god dang, she's getting louder. Hold on, I see some people, some cigarettes. Let me pull off and let me fucking ask these motherfuckers. What's up, Carlos? Some fucking lot lizard talking about she rejected AIDS. She don't date nobody with diseases. So this is why,
But you fuck them.
yeah, but you fuck them. That's like a fucking meth head wearing a fucking face mask.
Yeah.
You give a fuck about your health now because COVID's here?
You
Certainly.
decided to pump pesticides into your veins, and now
All of a sudden you fucking care? Same with an alcoholic. Fucking put a face mask on. What, you care about
your
your health
liver's
now?
gone.
Shit, fucking all your organs are gone. Fucking alcohol killed you inside and out.
You get congenital
Heart,
heart.
congenital heart failure. Oh, the fucking vehicle left. You must have followed the ambulance to the hospital.
Man, they didn't look like the kid.
Huh?
They didn't even put the kid or whoever it was in an ambulance.
They didn't? Oh. Must
I didn't see the back open up and they put a gurney through it.
be a munch. What do you call them? What's up, Christian?
Munchkin.
Munchhausers? Munchausen wife? Munchwivenhow? Whatever you fucking call it. That bitch pushed her kid just so she could call the ambulance.
I need some attention.
Fucking. You
Just being a Karen and the other fruity.
Oh, look, the park light's coming on already. One of them. Just that one. Dude, the lot lizard went to that camp over there. Hmm.
It's Wednesday. It's time to give me some money.
Hmm.
Come on, let's go.
Okay, guys. So I wanted to start this stream off. I want to wait till there's like a little bit more. So like, been watching these videos and like whatnot about like our border situation, and I was sitting here all fucking morning, just sitting here, just pondering thoughts on the border situation, and it popped into my head that not only do the people coming up from the border get like fucking free handouts, so do the fucking refugees, right? So these refugees and fucking people, they get these fucking grants at the cost of the taxpayers. They get like these entrepreneur grants to start a business, and it's like, what? And especially when they're not legal and they're refugees. Refugees meaning that they're supposed to go back home, right? What's up, John? So I'm sitting here thinking, like, these motherfuckers get these entrepreneur grants to start their own fucking business, right? When technically they're supposed to go back home. So I'm sitting here thinking, like, why doesn't the government give me that money so I can start my own fucking business? You know what I'm saying, people?
Oh, you got to fill out a big red tape of.
And you still get denied. Meanwhile, here's some fucking refugees from Somalia, Ethiopia, fucking Yemen, all these fucking radical Islamics fucking sneaking, in as a fucking refugee. They did it with Afghanistan. They're doing it right now with fucking Palestine, Israel, and Iran, all these fucking. So I was watching these videos, and 7 months ago, this one was posted, and this is where I'm. Here, can you turn that on? I'm gonna fucking play it on the speaker so it gets heard. This title. Hold on, guys. I gotta hook up the. This title. Hold on, guys. I gotta fucking pair shit up. Should have this ready, but did it sound like it connected? Did it connect? Active connected. Okay. So it's a video, but we're just gonna listen to the audio and listen to this title. Tell me if there's something wrong with this video that we're about to listen to. Okay, here's the title. Why Chinese migrants are making risky journey from South America to the United States. Anybody see anything wrong with that whole fucking title? Because the second word says it all for me. The second word, okay?
They escaped from China.
They're going to explain all that.
To Turkey.
They're going to explain all that. So, I mean, the second word alone.
Latino migrants crossing the Rio Grande dividing Mexico from the U.S. is a common sight. But what is less common is Chinese migrants making the same dangerous attempt. This woman says it took her a month to get here. The number of Chinese migrants crossing the U.S.-Mexico border has increased sharply. According to U.S. Customs and Border Protection, nearly 10,000 crossed on foot from October to April, compared with just over 2,000 who crossed in fiscal year 2022. This man goes by only his surname Ting for fear of retaliation against his family in China. Back home, he worked construction and struggled financially.
It's really hard to survive in China.
He traveled for 42 days through South America to the U.S.
This trip is really tough. Everyone's feet got lots of blisters, emotionally and physically. It's all very, very tiring.
Many Chinese migrants take similar routes, flying from China to Turkey and then to Ecuador because of its relatively loose visa policy. From there, they travel by foot and bus through South and Central America to the U.S.-Mexico border, some paying a guide or asking for directions along the way. In response to VOA's request for comment, the Chinese embassy wrote, "The Chinese government has always opposed illegal immigration and adopted various measures to stop illegal exits. This video, shot by VOA Mandarin, went viral on Chinese social media, prompting the former editor-in-chief of China's state-run Global Times to respond on Chinese social media Weibo. He wrote, "China is progressing rapidly, and now the vast majority of Chinese people don't need to take the risk of swimming across the border river." Catholic Charities of the Rio Grande Valley says about a month ago, some 100 Chinese...
And right there, Catholic Charities is always behind all this shit. Fucking research it, man. Catholic Charities is always behind it. You go to Minnesota, guess who's behind on supporting the fucking refugees from Somalia, Ethiopia, and fucking Yemen? Catholic Charities. Look what's going down on our fucking borders right now. Who's behind that? Catholic Charities.
These migrants a day were arriving here at this Texas shelter. This man from Shanghai made the journey with his wife and daughter. He's using a pseudonym, fearing retaliation from the Chinese government.
All Chinese people know our Chinese government is too powerful and too controlling.
Some of these migrants say they heard about the South American route through postings on Douyin, the Chinese version of TikTok, where those who have made the journey describe what to bring, where to meet a bus, and where to find bathrooms and food. This man, who chooses to use only the name Wang because his parents are still in China, explains why he left his homeland.
I don't have any hope for the future of China. I feel like it's going to get worse, going back to the time of the Cultural Revolution.
Professionally, what I did in China is not valid in the US. I'll need to find low-level jobs. Work that Americans don't want to do, we'll go do. I'm already mentally prepared.
Many of these migrants say they plan on moving on to New York or California, where many Chinese live, to face the challenge of surviving in a new land.
They go where there's a high population of their people already so they can blend in. It's the
Miami,
the Cubans will do it. And from California, Texas, Arizona, you know, the South Central American countries,
San Francisco,
that, you know, it's
Seattle.
Oh, you come into our country, you vote Democrat, and we let you in. We give you all the taxpayers' money. It's bullshit, you guys. I mean, we got...
I thought it used
every
to be
country in the
you
world.
had to be born in this country to be able to vote.
Not no more. I mean, look what they're doing in Colorado with Trump. They took it. They're taking his name off the ballot. But hey, anyone in Colorado that is a Republican or conservative or independent or whatever the fuck, you know, and you're wanting to vote for Trump, you know, there's a space at the end of the ballots, and it allows you to put another candidate's name in there. Put Trump's name in there. Do it. You have the right to. That's why that little spot's right there. If they take Trump's name off the fucking ballot, put his name in that spot. Everyone do it.
And it's so funny with the Democrats are the ones that create this crap.
Mm-hmm. But for some odd reason, we're at fault.
How did I put it earlier?
That detergent is really fucking strong. But it's fucking insane. I mean, we got Chinese coming through the fucking Mexican-U.S. border. We got Haitians. We got Afghans. We've got Turkish. We got the whole fucking planet coming through the fucking border right now.
海伦、莫雨、林路 and Victor Hugo Castillo, Elizabeth Lee, VOA News.
Here's something from 2 months ago, recent.
Hey, Alicia Pace here, and I just wanted to let y'all know that today we are celebrating...
We don't give a fuck. It's your fucking... I'm gonna look like Carrie Underwood.
On the front line, a 10 News special presentation starts now.
There are two sides to the border, Mexico and the United States. But many sides to a complicated problem of migrants seeking the American dream, to the point they'll try anything to cross into the U.S., even at their own peril. If somebody's injured, we're going to assist them. And there's the need for the U.S. to have a certain amount of control over who and how many can be welcomed to America. Is it compassionate to force them to stay in the river?
You know,
That's a good question, though, isn't it?
At least I can go to the bathroom and don't have any shame.
Well, no, it's just you have these people that are actually fleeing their countries. You know, the actual good people, and as always, it's always the bad people that ruin it for the people that are truly. That's like, you know, amongst the homeless community, you will have your local drug dealers become homeless and blend in with the homeless. It's proven facts, everyone.
Yeah, we have them pull up in their vehicle inches away from the side of my RV. What are they doing? They're hiding to do their drug. And I have to hop out and say, you need to keep moving on.
But that is a good question. It isn't compassionate. No, it's not compassionate. It fucking breaks my heart to see people being treated this way. But we don't have the capacity, let alone we don't even got the food to supply all these people. You know, everyone's coming up here with the whole concept of the American dream, and the American dream was never a dream. It's always been a nightmare.
At the end of the day, we're all human beings. All while balancing safety and security.
So we do our best to take care of our soldiers out here to ensure that everyone is safe, not only the migrants crossing, but our soldiers ourselves.
Patrolling day and night. It's difficult for soldiers to do and see.
People are just trying to seek a different life, and it's hard to watch them go through that. But we want to aid them in their ability to do that and getting them to the nearest port of entry so that they can be safe as well as they go crossing the border.
Watching others trying to escape a terrifying situation.
The same currently is on the other side of Mexico, that they beat them, they rape the women, beat the kids, they use everybody.
Our soldiers come in contact with human trafficking every single day. And you see the evidence of it.
Yeah, they're armed, they get assaulted, they take everything.
That they are afraid for their lives.
Miles of razor wire lining South Texas at Eagle Pass. To some, a deterrent. To others, a dangerous and inhumane barrier. And why is Virginia Governor Glenn Youngkin investing in this mission?
Every state is a border state.
How he says it keeps Virginians.
You hear that, you guys?
5 Virginians.
That should be the mindset. That should be the mindset. Every state is a border state, because the reason he says it that way, because they're being shipped everywhere. So we're tired of it in this state. So we're going to send them to the states that sanction them.
Every day from fentanyl overdoses.
And the question
fentanyl.
Of what is the
See, all the
way
shit
to handle a situation that has no easy answer.
And it just creates one massive barrier that prevents people from coming through. At the end of the day, we have to protect our border.
The experiences we bore witness to on the front line. A day in, day out struggle that only some see for themselves. The Virginia National Guard recently returned from a 30-day deployment on the U.S. border with Mexico at Eagle Pass, Texas, a hotspot for mostly Hispanic migrants attempting to cross the Rio Grande River into the United States. The troops' job was to stop them from gaining illegal entry. But why Virginia troops? Why stop migrants just seeking a better life? And why does the method for stopping them create so much outrage in certain sectors? I went to find out.
Ve al puente. Es ilegal cruzar aquí. Quédate en México. Atención, atención.
A group of migrants from Honduras has crossed the Rio Grande River. Between them and their dream are coils of concertina wire and a group of guardsmen. A woman is pleading with the troops to let them come into the country.
I cannot go back. I want to show you something, a death threat. They wanted to kill my son.
Jose Manuelos Montes is with Casa Latina in Roanoke. He agreed to translate for 10 News. The family, he says, is desperate because of gang threats against his life.
I have a document from the hospital showing that my son was receiving threats, from a criminal gang.
It's hot, over 100 degrees, and the troops toss bottles of water to the migrants. The water is welcome, but the news they give the group is not. They tell the woman that her family cannot come through, not here.
The officer is
God, that
telling
baby
the
looked
people
dead.
if they want to walk further up, there's an entry point and immigration will be there waiting for them.
This last group, a woman broke down into tears. That's got to be hard.
Yes, sir. That is, we see that quite often. It's something that it could definitely, break a man down inside, but we're here to follow our mission, and that's what we do here, sir.
For the guardsmen, there's a constant stream of no's to the people asking and pleading for entry to the United States.
If you're a Christian, God is calling you right now to greater impact.
The migrants have suffered to get this far. They've been beaten and robbed by Mexican cartels and others, as we will see. But the job of the Guard from Virginia, codenamed Task Force Cardinal, and the Guard from Texas and others, a sprinkling from other states, is to keep the migrants in the river or turn them back.
We encountered an
Carlos, you kind of make a point there. Where we can send not as a bad place to send them, but why not send them to Guantanamo? Open it up as a refugee camp. I mean, what, they got what? A handful of fucking terrorists they're torturing there? They can take them somewhere else and put them further in the ground to torture them. Why not turn Guantanamo into a refugee camp? That's a good idea, don't you think, America? Let's turn Guantanamo Bay into a refugee camp. Or, these immigrants, they got plenty of fucking room. They can turn those cells into bedrooms. I'm just saying, don't use it as a bad place, but turn it into something,
Numerous groups of individuals.
Sergeant First Class David Alexander of Arkansas says, you just don't know who's trying to come through.
I think we're doing a good thing. It's helping keep the criminals down, the drugs coming into our country and stuff.
So what would you say by way of explanation? Because people see these families and they feel sorry for them, but they maybe don't know about the criminals. How would you explain to the layperson how that all plays out?
What I would say is looks are deceiving. Don't put too much attention to what you actually see, but there's a lot more to it.
Yet, if they walk far enough, there is an end to that wire. Authorities can only patrol so much of the river. We watched as this group of men, women, and children reached that point, which the Guard has nicknamed 2030.
Estamos aquí la policía estatal y los militares para advertirles que si en el momento que ustedes cruzan van a ser arrestados.
We're not going to allow
30 can get in, 20 get caught.
to cross the border. Anybody that doesn't have a valid permit will be arrested.
Authorities are telling the group they'll be charged with criminal trespassing if they choose to come out of the river.
Es su decisión voluntariamente decidir qué van a hacer.
It's your decision to figure out what you're going to do.
All of them will come up the hill and take their chances with the trespassing charges. A group that identifies itself to 10 News as the Aguilar family tells us it's far better than the alternative.
Where are they from? They're from Venezuela. They got political charges on them, and they had to flee because if they stayed, they would be
political charges.
Put in, or I'm assuming killed. They had to leave everything they had, and they're saying that the government is a dictatorship down there, and they
in America
need Venezuela because they were going to be killed.
Their trip through Mexico was equally dangerous. How hard was it, like walking in the river?
Qué difícil fue a caminar en el río. The cartel robbed them up on Mexico side.
What did they rob them of?
¿Qué les quitaron?
Money, probably raped the women and children.
Todo, te quitan todo, te golpean, lo que te puedan decir que corre y el que no se ahogue porque se mete al río rápido o te ahogas en el río o ellos te agarran. Uno prefiere tratar de salvarse para
Yeah, they're armed. They get assaulted. They take everything: jewelry, watches, money, cell phones. I think they even try taking away their paperwork as well. I think they just pretty much take them for whatever they have.
Did they attack the women?
Atacan las mujeres. The kids as well.
Did they
beat them in?
Did they sexually assault the women?
Yeah, they sexually assault them.
The group points to a 17-year-old girl, likely a daughter, who barely escaped being raped by rushing into the river.
The underage girl that is here, she was the one that was pushed into the river in order to save her from an assault, a sexual assault.
Venezuela, ¿usted sabe qué significa esto, no?
And yet, remember, authorities are always aware that things may not be what they seem. They will not let criminals from other countries into the United States. Young men are a particular concern. So the women and children are held on one side while the men are separated into a second group. The Aguilar family's son is a legal adult, so apparently is a young husband, a son-in-law.
Tell us what's happening here. So they're trying to get their husband and child back, but they're obviously the child is an adult.
So despite the pleas, the family will not be reunited with the son or even the husband until it's determined they are who they say they are by immigration officials. Eventually, authorities lead...
So what, they only stop the men and let the women and children? Because, they can easily... I mean, look what goes on over in the Middle East with the radical Islamics. They'll use women as a suicide bomber. So what makes you think these women aren't part of the trafficking program? I'm just saying, people. I'm looking at it from both sides.
All of them to nearby vans to be taken away for processing. But they are in the United States. They have survived the journey and the dangers in their home country. They don't know what happens next for them. But through the translator, they tell us the priority is just to find safety, to be able to live. They will see what happens next. Guardsmen, Border Patrol, and Public Safety waiting at the border. A mission to deter or redirect, all in efforts to keep everyone safe. Clear instructions that are easily challenged on a case-by-case basis. What our soldiers witnessed while fulfilling their duty to protect Virginia.
Hey there, Chumba fans. When it gets cold outside, we all like to have something to warm us up. Like this Chumba fan letter. Chumba Casino
That's Ryan Seacrest. God, he's so creepy looking. Carson Daly these days is looking creepy too.
Razor wire and impenetrable buoys at the border put in place to deter. Some point the people may try to breach the wire, or they may not. This is what happens every day. And migrants finding ways to overcome the obstacles.
No, I don't know what the fuck happened with the audio.
An exclusive look at the situation at the U.S.-Mexican border in Texas and the role of the Virginia National Guard, which was deployed for 30 days during the month of July. Still to come in our special, we'll take a look at why Governor Glenn Youngkin felt the need to send the troops.
Every state is a border
Goddamn
state.
fucking
And we'll look at
motorcycles.
the conditions the National Guard faced in the unbearable Texas heat.
The high temperature yesterday was 170 degrees. Today it's going to be 105. There's a high humidity rate. Soldiers are out there in body armor, weapons. It's extremely challenging.
But first, a look at the barriers Texas has put in place to keep migrants on the Mexican side of the border to the extent that they can. When you arrive along the bank of the Rio Grande is the race for concertina wine. At Eagle Pass, a town of about 28,000 people, the Texas National Guard has strung miles and miles of concertina wire, or what the troops simply call sea wire, as a deterrent to migrants trying to cross. Eagle Pass is a hotspot for migrants, and thus the reason Texas Governor Greg Abbott has doubled down here as part of his Operation Lone Star, which launched in March of 2021. His effort to prevent migrants from crossing into his state without going through proper channels. The wire is sharp, and the coils are daunting to would-be river crossers. Right now, there's a group of migrants right over here walking along the river. They don't speak English, but they were able to tell me that they come from Venezuela. And they are just walking along the miles of concertina wire here while members of the Guard look on, basically with no other purpose than to keep them going. And at some point, the people may try to breach the wire, or they may not. And this is what happens every day here. The wire is a deterrent, but it isn't always effective. The wire is covered with pieces of clothing, which the migrants use to protect their bodies when they crawl through. When you get somebody up against the wire like this and you tell them to turn around, what do they usually do?
Sometimes they listen. Most of the time they do. Sometimes they refuse to. Sometimes they try to force their way through the wire. They'll put clothes or blankets on top of the wire and they'll start trampling it down.
Will they do that right in front of you?
Yes, sir.
How many people get through and just escape inland?
I couldn't really give you a percentage, sir. And it's more likely it's pretty high.
Enter then the latest technique to deter the determined. 1,000 feet of floating buoys that migrants can neither climb over nor swim under, placed in an area where many migrants had felt it safe to cross the river. The buoys became the focus of a standoff between the Biden administration and Texas Governor Greg Abbott. The Justice Department threatened to sue Texas if the buoys were not removed by July 24th, to which Texas Governor Greg Abbott famously replied, "We will see you in court, Mr. President." Mexico has also called the buoys a violation of its
And did they ever
sovereignty,
make it to
and
court?
human rights organizations have condemned them and the sea wire as inhumane. And yet, the floating border wall, as some have called it, remains.
Basically, with the wire and the buoys, we've made it a little bit harder for them to cross. It's not just coming across into the United States and just here I am. Now, under Governor Abbott's order, we've made it a little bit tougher.
Cordova tells me the buoys are meant to discourage migrants in a place where there have been, quote, a lot of drownings.
Why would people call the buoys inhumane then? I have no idea, sir.
Despite the barriers, migrants still get through. This group was walking in the river one minute, and the next was standing on the U.S. side of the wire. No one saw them pass. They waited there calmly to be taken to processing.
I know we didn't actually see them where they came across, but how did they likely get onto this side of the river? Well, basically, what they're looking, like I explained, like in certain areas where the military, where they've been a great asset, where they're fixing the wire, they're looking for places where they can get in. They have eyes on the other side, so they look for any type of loopholes where they can try to get in, and they'll take advantage of that.
And that's probably what they did?
Absolutely.
Immediately, guardsmen begin repairing the wire, beefing up the defenses. The next day, we joined a group from Texas, adding more wire along the riverbank.
The process of creating deterrence for the migrants never ends. Right down here, you can see where the migrants have been coming ashore and using these paths along the riverbank. Not only does that make it easier for them because they don't have to walk in the river, but it also gives them the opportunity to then climb the bank and try and get through this sea wire, as they call it. And the idea is to discourage them from wanting to do that.
I say put fucking crocodiles and fucking piranhas in that shit. That'll deter anybody from crossing across that fucking river. They can go to Africa and they get some crocodiles because, crocodiles are used to that climate. Then you go down to the Amazon and you get some fucking piranhas. Put them in the fucking river. Let's see how many people cross then.
Mainly a deterrent. This is all it is designed to do.
Electric eels too.
Individuals to illegal port of entry. That's all it is.
Basically, the extra that you're adding down there does what that you don't already have.
You really want to intimidate motherfuckers? Put a few bull sharks up in that shit because they go from salt water to fresh water. So put some bull sharks up in there. Those are like the fucking bouncers of the fucking river.
It makes it harder for people to cross.
Whether it's the heat or the humidity, the temperature seems much worse just 10 feet below the bank at the river's edge.
And action.
To date, we've helped over 30,000 families cancel their time.
River's edge. Guardsmen uncoil the wire there, trying to discourage migrants from testing the defenses of Operation Lone Star.
It seems hard to make the migrants walk in the river, but that's what your job is. Is that what you're telling me?
Yes. Like, at the end of the day, we have to protect our border. We want to protect the border from the wrong people coming in. We want to stop the drug traffickers. We want to stop
swordfish.
trafficking.
Put the whole fucking ecosystem up in there. That's predators.
Unfortunately, that's just the reality of it.
It's a reality that will keep coming. At least hundreds of migrants every day, 24 hours a day, looking for a weak spot where they can get through.
Seriously, just invest in some crocodiles.
The buoys and servicemen with a job to do.
Is it compassionate to force them to stay in the river?
John.
At the end of the day, we're all human beings. Okay, so when
maybe a couple dildo trout in case the water tower gang shows up.
Suffer from extreme heat or heat stroke or anything like that, we will help them. We're not savages. We're not.
Miles of razor wire and
that's why people keep coming into this country illegally, because y'all ain't being savages. You don't have to fucking kill them and shit, but I'm just saying.
Members of the Texas Department of Public Safety.
They're not going to go away if you're going to be nice.
It is those patrols that the Virginia National Guard joined for their 30-day deployment beginning in July. Patrols along the Rio Grande River at Eagle Pass, on the river bank, and on the river itself. The migrants are a constant, searching for a way to get through.
These illegal migrants are coming across and being deterred by the concertina wire that our engineers have put up. They encounter DPS and Border Patrol and have been told in Spanish to cross at a legal port of entry.
And that bridge would be a legal port of entry right there?
There are over 20 legal ports of entry. This bridge, you do see traffic going to and from Mexico and would be one of the legal ports of entry.
The Texas heat is nearly unbearable.
Oh, here comes the AIDS chick
170
again.
degrees on some days.
Oh, she's still talking about the AIDS thing.
Ever in my life. Been married, why would I want to get married again?
Because nobody wants to marry your ass. That's why. You're a lot lizard.
I don't think
You can't turn a hoe into a housewife.
you get used to it. The heat is definitely challenging, but I would say after the first couple of days here, we were acclimated to it.
And there's the dot.
That bitch just picked up a cookie cutter in the gutter. A cookie cutter. It was a cookie cutter. It looked like a cookie cutter. Fucking tweakers.
There are about
What the fuck's she
100
doing back
Virginia
now?
National Guardsmen assisting Texas authorities, many of whom have been deployed for more than a year. Their job, to give Texas
tweakers
a
are
break.
weird.
A break from standing along the river, sweating in the hot Texas sun, trying to convince migrants not to do what they have traveled hundreds of miles to do.
The Virginia National Guard and the Florida National Guard and all the other states that have came down here, they've been very helpful to help give us a quick break, help us cover down the operations, and give us a tremendous support in terms of securing the border.
Securing the border. Not only are they trying to force migrants to choose a legal port of entry, but they're looking for signs of human trafficking and drug running. One seems more common than the other.
Our soldiers come into contact with human trafficking every single day.
I sat down with Major Sidney Wesley, commander of the Virginia National Guard deployment called Task Force Cardinal.
How do you recognize when you see human trafficking, or do you just have a sense?
Well, they'll tell you, and then you can see it. You can see things on the other side of the border. You can see people being grouped together, by strong men, people with sticks on the other side of the water. You can see those things. We'll get reports, from the line that they'll see that. And we got the same players every day. You'll see them and wearing this special shirt, special hat. See them every single day.
Human trafficking, it's a multi-billion-dollar business, basically. Basically, they make more money in moving people into the United States. It's a good possibility they're taken into hostage, and so they pay their debt with the cartels. They have to work it off.
So the troops stand guard along the river, trying their best to get the migrants to go back.
How does that go when there's a guy with a stick on the other side of the river?
Well, they normally know at that point. They can get on the U.S. side of the border and then or the river, and then they can work their way down that way back towards the port of entry.
When you ask the troops, they say it's their mission.
And when you do come face to face, what's your job?
Just to deter them, tell them go cross back over and come across a legal point of entry.
How well do they take that advice?
Sometimes they don't, and they keep walking the fence line. And some days they cross back over.
Most admit, despite their mission, it's hard to see. And they all, standing there in that Texas heat, say they miss home.
They think of their own families, they think of their own children, and thinking about them being trafficked in that way is very hard for them to see.
As a soldier, everyone has their own emotional, moral reservations about any topic, but our mission is to either turn them back to Mexico safely or to tell them to take the legal port of entry.
So you go home at night, do you have some moments of regret?
I try not to. My job here is my soldiers. Make sure that they're here doing their mission and that they come home safe.
And do you have a family at home?
I do. Wife and 6 kids.
Damn!
I'm always happy to get home to my family. So I'll be pretty happy to see him again.
Of course, a lot of the officers are tired. This has been going on for the past 2 years.
Shit. Give me a job working on the border. I'll go work down there.
To assist him in whatever he needs, and we're here to battle this crisis that we have here in Texas. And this is basically a back door into the United States, and we're here to hold the line.
You got soldiers and airmen. They're just great Virginians, great Americans. They left their family and came down here in these conditions and dealing with a very difficult situation. They're doing a great job.
See, and this is what we also need to do. We also need to bring back home all our soldiers from like overseas and shit. Them borders over there ain't our problem, ain't our issue. Our issue, our problem is our border right here in our own backyard. So let's bring our soldiers back and they would love to work on the border protecting their country from fucking evil fucking assholes.
Get the politics of the border as well as fentanyl later on in our program. But back here in Virginia, reporter Sydney Jackstimer looked into whether those migrants who are victims of human trafficking are winding up here in the Commonwealth.
Hundreds of men, women, and children are being forced into human trafficking while crossing the U.S.-Mexico border, some even making their way into our region.
Yeah, fucking ads. 4, 3.
That multivitamin you're taking every day, it's these generic brands.
It's a problem no one in no place is immune to: human trafficking. That's why organizations like Project Horizon in Lexington and Straight Street in Roanoke offer resources to help victims.
We've had the human trafficking program 2.5 years. And so we've served 40 primary victims of human trafficking, countless other secondary victims, which are family members or friends that are affected by that.
We provide shelter care now for up to 8 girls at a time, rescued in Virginia for up to a year at a time.
According to the National Human Trafficking Hotline, during 2021, there were reportedly 179 victims of human trafficking in Virginia. That same year in Virginia, over 81% of reported cases involved people not from the United States.
We also have translation services. So many of our clients who've been trafficked are Spanish speaking, and we have someone who can provide that service for them, along with advocacy within the criminal justice system.
While both Project Horizon and Straight Street offer services for victims, they're also focused on education to stop the cycle before it's too late.
We want to do everything possible to prevent trafficking from taking place. So we have a program where we have staff members go into local schools to provide human trafficking awareness training.
We work closely with the truck stops in the area, doing education for their staff on how to understand what trafficking is about, how to spot it, and what to look for.
Expect the unexpected. That's the mentality at the border in Eagle Pass. For migrants and guardsmen, at any given moment, a dangerous journey toward freedom turns threatening, and guardsmen's jobs become even more strenuous. We were there when systems were challenged and safety was jeopardized. How both sides reacted to an unwarranted night of chaos.
You're watching On the Frontline, a 10 News special presentation.
There are two sides to the border, and where they meet can be a dangerous place. One side trying to get in any way they can.
We're asking for help, please. Help us to cross the border or come in. We can't go back to Mexico.
The other with a mission to protect.
As you can see behind me, we have a multitude of Border Patrol and DPS that are pushing them back.
But what happens when the systems are challenged?
I've had people who've been so desperate that they've rushed the sea wire, and it was about 30 plus personnel to try to get through, so it can get pretty dangerous.
Is there power in numbers? We witnessed tonight where worlds collided. Are ready to carry out. what happens at night at the border can be much different than in the daytime. And as we planned our evening coverage, a major event unfolded right before our eyes. Over here, a group of migrants tried to rush through customs and break into the United States. We have a situation going on here. What is it?
So we have a giant caravan that keeps going to the Mexican side. We actually see a lot of personnel going down. If you see the green arrows, there's probably over 20 to 30 personnel going through. They're trying to rush the bridge coming onto America. As you can see behind me, we have a multitude of Border Patrol and DPS that are pushing them back. The Mexican military is also staying on the other side right here.
Shoot off your gun, scare them.
There's no,
you have no problem shooting at us Americans.
A group of migrants tried to push across the bridge and overwhelm customs officials. Police
not the military
lit up the bridge,
but it's going to go there soon.
A massive effort to push them back. For migrants in this situation, everybody is the enemy. U.S. officials, Mexican officials, and especially the coyotes who have brought them to the border and will often rob them just as they release them on the Mexican side.
They've got pushed down to under the bridge where the river's at, where essentially the border starts, and instead of doing the legal way, they're trying to cross illegally. Now they've actually hit our land, and they're on the other side of the Conaxes, which is already an illegal trespassing, but they haven't crossed the sea wire that's already down.
This is the same group of people we saw that tried to rush the bridge,
right.
And then they turned around, they came down along the river, and then they just started running. What was going on there?
So what happened was that the Mexican Border Patrol, their Border Patrol came down and they were trying to catch them too. So they all scattered. Now the group is broken up into several smaller groups, and each small group is trying to cross the river through their own way. And some have already hit the side. If you look over the side where we're at now, you see probably the first group that actually crossed the border.
All right, I'm gonna pan over.
Yep.
And there they are, right there. Members of the group passed right below us, shouting in Spanish, angry at what they have suffered.
That's not our fault, though. That's not our fault. How is
on the other side of Mexico
how is that our fault? How is that our problem? That is not our problem. You cannot be mad at us for protecting our fucking side of the border. Are you? God, the audacity of people.
They beat them, they rape the women, beat the kids, they abuse everybody. That essentially that side of life of Mexico is death, and here at least they're in jail.
The shouting continues. The migrants are upset and seem to have reason to be. Are they telling the truth?
It's really hard to say. We're not over there. Like I said, we've seen people being robbed. We've had people in cases that we have apprehended that have already been robbed of all their possessions. And the same coyotes that we've seen them push through, they've also pulled guns on us and threatened us as well.
So fucking shoot the coyotes!
Are often tasked with chasing down migrants who sneak through the wire with intentions that are not in the best interest of the United States. Drug runners and people with serious criminal records.
If you're an opinionated person like I am and you'd like to give your opinion about everything, I highly recommend Forthright Surveys.
I'm a dad.
Yeah, okay.
Drug runners and people with serious criminal records. As they walk the river in groups that he calls caravans, he says it's hard to know who is who.
People have been so desperate that they've rushed the sea wire with me and my counterpart, and it was about 30 plus personnel trying to get through, so it can get pretty dangerous.
In terms of, like, they were just telling us that they beat the children, raped the women, that and what was between them and safety was that bridge.
Once again, you take the information as it is, but there's a really hard way to verify because we don't know where they're coming from or also who they are. They could be criminals that are trying to join into those giant groups of people, so we can never really determine who is who and what they're saying is correct.
So right now that large group of people has decided that they do not want to take their chances
Look how high that river used
with
to be.
all of this ribbon wire right here, this concertina wire. So they're literally walking along the river here on the United States side of the river. They're shouting to us in Spanish.
We're asking for help, please. Help us to cross the border or come in. we can't go back to Mexico. The officer is actually communicating to the undocumented immigrants that they cannot cross the border. To cross the border, it's a criminal act, and they're going to be arrested.
As darkness falls, more migrants join the group, which ultimately stops to rest just inside the wire.
Essentially, right now they're just resting here because they don't know what to do. They can't go north, they can't go south, they can't come over. The only option should be is to go back to Mexico.
They won't do that. As long as they don't cross the wire, they'll not be arrested. Their plight, like many migrants fleeing an often dangerous situation in their home country, fighting the likes of coyotes, cartels, and even the Mexican police. They can come through legally at a border crossing, or they can go back into the river. So we followed that group for a long ways along the river. We've now driven the entire length of the riverbank here at Eagle Pass, and we've come to the part where the end of the wire happens. It does eventually end, and if those people are determined enough, eventually what they'll do is they will arrive here at an area called 2030, and this is the end of the wire. And if they get around the wire and they collect down here in this bottom area behind me, then the Border Patrol will come and pick them up, and that will be the end of their journey. And we don't know if that group is going to want to work that hard. It would be 5 miles of walking at least in the river, but that's what's in front of them if they're determined to cross into the United States. We've already
And they're
shown
pretty
you
determined.
that some do come to the end of the wire,
See?
but perhaps, only perhaps, is that the beginning of a better life.
The tough journey for migrants doesn't end at the border. In fact, some say it's where it begins. And since the end of Title 42, people looking to come into the United States now need to apply before they get to the border. And if they don't, they have slim chances of gaining asylum. Sergeant, you were telling me why it was so important to cut down. This used to be all sugarcane along here. You couldn't see.
That is correct, sir.
And
All
why is that
sugarcane.
so important? Because a lot of times people would come over, if they would come over from Mexico, and they were coming. There was guys with a machete that we had always heard about, and then finally he just got caught the other day. Hopefully that was probably the same person, and he was coming to the United States side and actually robbing people
and using the machete as a weapon.
Absolutely.
After migrants like these actually find a way to penetrate the sea wire and the truth.
Here's another thing that would be a dead giveaway for like shady ass people. The ones that come over with their face fucking covered with like, you know, bandanas and stuff, because especially when the media's there, like if you're like fleeing, you would want your face to be seen so your story gets told, right? Why are you hiding your face from the media and shit? Oh, because you're one of those fucking cartel motherfuckers.
They usually just turn themselves in. Border Patrol will then take them for processing. But what is processing? They're taken away in vans, and then the first step will be something called a credible fear interview. That's where migrants have to say why they're leaving their home country, and it has to fall into one of 5 categories: fleeing for persecution based upon race, religion, nationality, political, social group, or political opinion.
So it's kind of your, you know, do they have a minimal claim? Can they articulate some kind of reason for why they are fleeing, and that it's because of one of those 5 grounds? That is done at the port of entry, or if they can't make it to a port of entry, oftentimes they are just doing that wherever they are.
Thompson says about 35% do not pass the interview. They are immediately turned away, but they do get one chance to appeal.
And if you do, then they will permit you to enter. And that statistic was 23%. So overall, 23% were denied asylum at the border for their credible fear interview.
Immigrants are then given a court date, but that can take time, sometimes a long time.
I just had a case where,
and then they still get to roam free in our country while waiting for that court date. And then when that court date finally comes around, Guess who's not at the court date? That illegal immigrant you have allowed to roam around the country for a very long time, waiting for that court date, knowing damn well they're not going to show up. Ever.
Even then, they could be denied and sent back to their home country. And because of that, Thompson says, our immigration laws are broken, meaning there's no certainty that once migrants finally cross that wire, that they are home free. Executing a mission built on bettering safety and security. Governor Glenn Youngkin says using Virginia funds was not a difficult decision. How he says.
Did you mute? Oh, you want me to mute this?
Issues at the border trickle into our backyard, and we find out where politics plays a role.
I had these for like 20
I made a big vat of watery spheres in my backyard so I could melt Nordic gold and pour it in there. Every time I pour metal in, it makes a unique sculpture. Hot liquid metal had flowed down around each of the watery spheres, forming this interesting design. What do y'all think of this golden sculpture?
Cool.
$3 million of Virginia money sent to the U.S.-Mexico border through our National Guard, all to fight a humanitarian and human trafficking crisis. Governor Glenn Youngkin says it's time Virginia did its part.
What we've seen in the Commonwealth of Virginia is an absolute crisis from drug overdoses.
How he says drugs from the border are seeping into a deadly cycle here at home.
It's coming across the southern border from Mexico and coming to Virginia.
But how much of this mission is politically motivated?
It energizes the Republican base and it infuriates the Democratic administration.
A hot topic issue with real-life implications. So far, we've shown you the plight of the migrants and even the difficulty of the troops being asked to contain them. But what's the big picture? Why has this standoff emerged in Texas? When you look at the fact that only governors from Republican states are the ones sending troops to assist Republican...
And for those of you who can't see, the states that they're referring to as Republican states are Idaho, North and South Dakota, Nebraska, Oklahoma, Iowa, Arkansas, Mississippi, Tennessee, Ohio, is that West Virginia? West Virginia, regular Virginia. Okay, it's regular Virginia. Okay, West Virginia, Virginia, South Carolina, and Florida. Those are the states they're talking about.
Governor Greg Abbott in Texas, you begin to understand this is mostly about politics.
It's a sure winner for the party promoting tougher policies on immigration.
That's Larry Sabato, one of the most respected political analysts in the United States today.
This immigration issue consistently.
Yeah, I saw that bitch up on the bridge.
First, second, or third on the list of concerns of both Republicans and independents.
Meaning, those people walking in the Rio Grande River are essentially political pawns. Come election time, the party that looks toughest on stopping them from coming into the United States will get votes from their base and badly needed undecided voters.
It's also important to say that it's about 95% politics on another level. And particularly for the party out of power, which right now is the Republicans. Yes, they have the House, but they don't have the Senate, and most important, they don't have the White House.
Texas has taken on the lion's share of the responsibility in order to secure the border, and I believe that we have a role to play, and that's why I very carefully have made this decision in order to support the work being done in Texas, because Virginians have a lot of risk here too.
Earlier this year, Virginia Governor Glenn Youngkin, whose star is rising in the Republican Party, announced he'd be sending 100 members of the National Guard, along with some support staff, to Texas
for a 30-day deployment. He cited the need to assist with control of human trafficking and the flow of the deadly drug fentanyl into the Commonwealth. He told me in an interview before the deployment that the $3 million Virginia would spend pales in comparison to what Texas is spending.
Texas has put up $9 billion in order to try to address this. And
$9 billion.
For us to send troop support and to do it in an extremely professional manner with great leadership, I think is what Virginia should be doing.
The governor went to see the troops off when they departed in early July, and he met them again upon their return. He even flew to Texas to meet them during their deployment and thank them for their service. And even though Texas authorities say the help from Virginia and other states is badly needed,
how much help has the Virginia National Guard done?
Oh, they've been phenomenal.
Sabato says there's a lot more
Thank you,
going on
Virginia.
here. Is there any part of his decision that was, wow, they really need help, I'm going to send some help?
I'm sure they would contend that. I'm too old to believe it.
He says detaining migrants at the border, then busing them to Democratic sanctuary cities in the north is a win-win-win for Republicans.
The fact that only Republican governors are sending
Win-win and chicken dinner.
It's a great issue for the Republicans. It energizes the Republican base, and it infuriates the Democratic administration in the White House and the Senate. That's a three-fer as far as Republicans are concerned.
He also points out that it forces Democrats to put their money where their mouth is when it comes to accepting the migrants in Democratic strongholds like New York and California.
The Republicans are partly making a legitimate point. That is, some cities far away from the border can easily call themselves sanctuary cities without really having much of a consequence to it, unless the Republicans send loads of immigrants there, which is precisely what they have been doing.
Hi, I'm Tom Busby. See this $735 check?
Nope.
So while the migrants walk the river and the troops stand in the hot Texas sun, there appears little chance the issue will be resolved anytime soon.
That baby looks dead.
As hard as it must be to walk the river, having faced the cartels, the coyotes, to be sexually assaulted and robbed, only then to come up against the coils of seawire, or even to be the people tasked with stopping them. You must understand that all of this is about power in Washington, and that illegal immigration is too powerful an issue to solve.
But people don't seem to care about that anymore. It's the issue. It's hot.
We've looked at the plight of the migrants, at the role of the troops, and the problem of human trafficking. But there's another big issue at the border: drugs, specifically fentanyl. And despite the wire, the buoys, and the troops, some drugs do get through. And as Sidney Jacksheimer found out, they do make it into Virginia.
Law enforcement says nearly all of the drugs on the streets are coming exclusively from Mexico. A crisis emerging from outside of the United States. Drugs integrating into our cities and even the smallest rural communities. 10 News spoke with United States District Attorney for the Western District of Virginia, Chris Kavanaugh, about what his office sees when dealing with drug cases.
We're seeing that so much of the narcotics that are in our communities originate from Mexico and the cartels in them.
And for the record, the fentanyl is coming from out of China. Facts.
Mexico.
In the last year, Kavanaugh says his office has prosecuted 37% more drug-related cases. There's also been other changes in trends.
I think 10 or 15 years ago,
looks like
we saw
saltwater
a lot
taffy.
more powder cocaine and crack cocaine cases that were in our federal court system. Now, if you look over at our Western District of Virginia courts, you're seeing fentanyl and you're seeing meth be the lion's share of the work that we're doing over there.
According to U.S. Customs and Border Protection, in 2022, over 650,000 pounds of drugs were seized at the U.S.-Mexico border.
You hear that, you guys? You hear that? 600 as of 2022, that whole fiscal year, right? 650,000 pounds of drugs seized.
Over 25% was methamphetamine. Another problem affecting our region, fentanyl, which officials say is often mixed with other drugs, sometimes unknowingly.
We're seeing fentanyl in so many different types of narcotics, whether it's pressed pills or cocaine and also methamphetamine. It's finding itself everywhere.
Which is why organizations like New River Valley Community Services and Rockbridge Area Prevention Coalition offer resources to those suffering from addiction, plus education like naloxone training, the overdose reversing nasal spray.
We need to recognize the issue as a public health concern. This is a crisis that affects us all in some way, either directly or indirectly, and we need to be more open-minded about helping people that struggle with addiction.
The Center for Disease Control says in 2022, nearly 110,000 people
Here's a
died.
thought. Instead of giving all our money to fucking Ukraine and fucking Israel and Hamas and Palestine and Iran and all them and China and shit, how about we take all that money and put it back into mental hospitals so people can get the right mental help that they need? Fucking drug rehab places and shit so people can get off these fucking drugs.
There ain't waiting lists that are a year and a half long. It's on demand.
Yeah.
That's how many we need built.
I mean, there's a lot of things I can think that we can be doing with this with our tax dollars than fucking handing it over to countries that are never gonna fucking pay us back.
How much was that yacht?
Oh yeah, the president of Ukraine, Zelensky, bought a $70 million yacht with American tax dollars. But hey, you people are okay with that. We should go take that fucking yacht. It's ours.
Yep.
It's America's yacht.
Get a lawyer and go over there and say,
I'm suing your ass, bitch.
From an overdose. 75% of those
trillion
were linked to synthetic opioids.
Governor Greg Abbott of Texas claims Operation Lone Star has resulted in 33,800 criminal arrests, with more than 30,700 felony charges and more than 426 million lethal doses of fentanyl intercepted. Here in Virginia, it's one of the reasons Governor Glenn Youngkin mobilized the Virginia National Guard. But unlike human trafficking, which troops tell us they saw every day, the movement of fentanyl is harder to track. Troops say drug trafficking is harder to spot than human trafficking. Even still, they want to stop it any way they can.
What I would say is looks are deceiving. Don't put too much attention to what you actually see, that there's a lot more to it.
Sergeant Renee Cordova says you just can't tell who the bad actors are. And Texas claims they've arrested more than 33,000 people coming through on criminal charges.
These bad people, they get infiltrated with a lot of good people. They do whatever they have to get to their destination.
It's one of the reasons single males are separated from their families until authorities can check their background.
And action.
To date, we've helped over 30,000 families cancel their timeshares, and we've saved them over $450 million in.
And yet, we learned it's unlikely that the migrants we saw, the ones looking for a way through and willing to turn themselves in for processing, are carrying drugs in their pockets. And after 3 weeks of patrolling, the Virginia Guardsmen say they had not been coming face to face with drug traffickers.
How about fentanyl?
Yeah, I wouldn't see fentanyl. We haven't seen any in this particular area.
Guardsmen say that yes, sometimes criminals will hide in plain sight.
There be criminals that are trying to join into those giant groups of people. So we can never really determine who is who and what they're saying is correct.
But more likely, Lycourt says, those who don't want to be caught will look for soft spots in the border defenses and slip through unseen. Lycourt tells me that much of his mission involves finding and apprehending those people
often resulting in long nighttime chases through the thick Texas underbrush, all to fulfill one mission: to protect our border. During my time at the border, where we received access to pretty much anything we wanted to see or do, we saw hardworking troops trying to carry out their mission. They missed their families and they sweated in the 100-degree temperatures, and many were willing to admit that it was difficult to watch the migrants struggle to find a way into the United States, even if it was illegal. And then there are the migrants themselves, the ones who are telling the truth. Probably most of them are running from threats in their home countries. On the way, they've been beaten and robbed and sexually assaulted. They reach the river and run from the coyotes working for cartels who promise to get them to the United States, only to be robbed again by those same coyotes. And as the state of Texas, with the help of states like Virginia and a handful of others, toughens its defenses under Operation Lone Star, we learn that politically, immigration is an issue that a leading analyst tells us is too valuable for politicians to solve. Unless conditions improve in Central and South American countries, the migrants will keep coming. The cartels will make money off of them, and the atrocities will continue. Human trafficking is a real issue, as is the movement of drugs like fentanyl into the United States. It is a muddy, dusty mess, and there is no plan to clean it up.
This has been a 10 News special presentation on the Frontline. Thank you for watching.
So, yeah, everyone. That's what's going on. Excuse me. So, that's it, everyone. So, yeah. Let's keep on this shit and stuff. Uh-oh. I guess Biden is in Milwaukee, Wisconsin, and had another blooper incident. Let's see what that is real quick. Who the fuck is he waving to? He's getting ready to fucking die because he sees ghosts. Look at him. What the fuck? Is he gonna run right into the flags? Was that even him? Oh, fuck. Oh, everyone. Stay blessed and stay warm, everyone. Be safe.
The CDC said.
Peace.